What's going on, everybody? Coach Mike here, and this is Strength Coach Thoughts. So, before we get started, cheers. I'm about to train after this, so I got to start caffeinating and tingling up here. Mm. And C4s are never a bad choice. Additionally, as always, if you like the headbands that I am wearing, they are vertical athletic headbands. I have the link in the description of the videos. And make sure you use code Coach Mike at checkout for 15% off your order. They are active cooling headbands. They're nice and thin, nice and silky material. They absorb sweat really well. I've been finding that out this week with 80-degree humid days here in Texas. They absorb sweat really well. And the nice thing is as they absorb moisture, you can just wring out the moisture, shake them around a little bit, and they start actively cooling. And what I mean by that is it's not just like you're pouring cold water on them. They actually get colder through whatever means they've designed these with. But if you think about those ice packs that like you buy them at the store, the little they're not cold. You just buy them at the store and then you crush them around and you beat them up and they get colder. That's exactly what these do. So again, if you're interested, they have all sorts of solid colors, all sorts of pattern designs, MLB branded ones, whatever you're looking for. They probably got them. They got towels, they got scarves, they got all sorts of sun stuff. But again, click the link in the description below and make sure you use code Coach Mike at checkout to get that 15% off your order. Now, today's topic, this is a strength coach debate. I mean, I'm talking since I've been in the field, this has been a debate. I'm sure it will continue to be a debate. I'm sure it's been a debate for before I even thought about strength conditioning. And I'm tackling this one because I have, as every strength coach does, I have very strong feelings about this topic and the role of certain movements within sport and kind of what kind of coach you are if you don't implement certain movements. And this is going to be a very hot episode. So the thesis of today is what is the focus of strength and conditioning for athleticism? Key emphasis there is for athleticism. So as usual, which we only have one more blog to go through, and then we're going free form. My radical thoughts in my head. So we're going off the blog today, and then we're free form from here on out. Well, one more blog, I believe. Then we're free form, but I'll read the blog and I'll interject as I feel necessary. Also, I do want to note with all these blog articles that I have, I will link the blog. It's somewhere in the YouTube links in the bio, but I'll also make sure I'm linking them in the descriptions. I cite all my sources, so I'm not just talking out my ass on some of these topics. Like some of the topics that what does it mean to be an athlete? That is my perspective. There's not research into that. Again, some of these topics are topics that people just feel are common sense. So there's not a lot of research into them. Topics like this, though, there is a ton of research into, and I cite my sources as I need to at the bottom of the blog articles. So if you're curious on where I'm getting my information, if you want to look at the source material yourself, feel free to click on the blog and then look at the references at the bottom. So starting off with the blog, what is the purpose of strength and conditioning for athleticism? With this question, I am not suggesting a specific training modality. I kind of am, but not directly. But rather the overall purpose of training athletes. What features are S&C coaches trying to train, and what are the best methods to train them? Having already submitted a research review on this topic for my EDD, here's where I stand. Athletes need to have a certain set of abilities to perform in their sport without injury. These abilities are often cited as speed, agility, strength, power, and sometimes size, depending on sport and what level you're at. Looking at these features, one thing stands out to me, except when talking about size and strength to a degree. But power is the underlying feature that needs to be developed for the most for general athleticism. Again, for general athleticism, building the foundation of athletics, which is what 99% of the athletes need in S&C, unless you're working with that 1% who actually need specific training or specialized training. They don't. You don't need to be over there doing banded whatever crap stuff because it's sports specific. Stop. Please stop. Please. If you're a strength coach doing that, stop. If you're a personal trainer doing that, I mean, just keep tearing your field down. But stop. We don't need to do all that crap. Anyway, I will break down each one in detail in the following sections. However, speed, quick synopsis here. Speed requires power being expressed into the ground to accelerate the body in the desired manner, whether you're accelerating, decelerating, backpedaling, running forward, all that stuff. Agility requires management of power, absorption, and distribution to make abrupt changes in direction and speed. Again, acceleration, deceleration, lateral movements, cutting, stuff like that. And strength will be reinforced through the expression of maximal muscular power with heavier loads. I'll explain strength as we get to that section. So, simply defined, power is work over time. Okay, so think about what I'm saying there. Defining work as the product of the force exerted, on an object and the distance the object moves in the direction in which the force is exerted. So basically, work is force on an object, how far the object moves, and putting in. Let's do that again. So work is applying force to the object and how far that object moves with that force. Okay. So again, power is work over time. So power is how much force can you put into an object and how far does that object go over time. All right. Keeping that in mind for a later discussion we're about to get into. Okay, so when discussing power in sport, plyometrics and Olympic style movements, the snatch and the clean and jerk, here we go with the contention, should be the first thing that comes to mind, not powerlifting, not the squat, bench, and deadlift. Okay. So the snatch and the clean and jerk both require rapid displacement of an object, the body or barbell, to be successful movements. So I'm going to pause here and I'm going to get this out of the way now. You can go on YouTube. Any reputable fitness YouTubers probably has a video on this. But basically, if you think about weightlifting and powerlifting, they are kind of misnomers of each other, right? So weightlifting. Let's start with weightlifting. Weightlifting is the snatch and the clean and jerk. Okay. Now going back to the definition of power. Power is how much force is applied to an object and how far does that object move over time. Okay. In order to successfully snatch and clean and jerk, you need to apply a certain amount of force into the bar, more for the snatch, more for the clean and jerk, whatever. Like, what I'm getting at is the snatch, you're trying to get more force into the barbell in order to get the barbell higher to pull yourself underneath it. Where the clean and jerk, you have to apply even more force because it's going to be a heavier weight and the barbell's probably not going to get as high. So you need to get it to a height you're able to pull under the bar as well. But it's probably not going to be as high because it's more weight. So it's more mass. Okay. Weight or powerlifting on the other hand. So basically weightlifting is power. It's pure expression of power. Powerlifting. See, I'm getting myself tripped up. Powerlifting, the squat, the bench, and the deadlift are not power movements. Okay. So they are not, forcefully moving an object over a distance over a time. You can grind out a bench press. You can grind out a squat. You can grind out a deadlift. It doesn't require speed. It doesn't require that over time aspects that weightlifting requires. So powerlifting is really weightlifting, and powerlifting should be called strength lifting if you want to call it that. But basically, that's kind of like the welcome to the mind games of S&C. So we don't like to make things easy on ourselves. But so when we're talking about developing power for athleticism, the snatch and the clean and jerk are the best ways to do that. And I'm going to get into velocity-based training and different stuff like that. But I'm talking about pure power expression. The snatch and the clean and jerk are your biggest bang for your buck. These powerlifting style squat, bench, deadlift. If you're low bar squatting your athletes, like your football players, like baseball players, whatever, you're doing them a disservice. You should be high bar squatting them to get maximal mobility, maximal range of motion, and then maximal force production from the bottom. A catcher is not sitting in a low bar position behind the plate. They're sitting in a high bar position. Their chest is upright. They got their hand out. They're sitting back into those heels up maybe midfoot. Like they're not in a low bar position where their butt's up in the air and they're hinging over doing a good morning basically, right? So I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm getting a little ranty, so I'm going to pull back now. But I'm going to continue here in the blog. Okay. So strength, however, is the ability to exert force. Okay. So again, we are talking about power is work over time. Work is the force exerted into an object and how far that object moves with that force. Strength is the ability to produce the force. Okay, so I need to get a little whiteboard or something for whiteboard days, but stick with me here. Okay, so strength is the foundation for power and therefore athleticism. Um, However, an athlete can and should hit a strength threshold to continue developing power. Examples of this can be found throughout weightlifting with athletes who have enormous squats, front and back, as well as pulls, but stop at a certain weight because there is plenty of strength reserved to produce the force required for the movements. This can be applied to sports, but in a slightly modified view. So, what am I saying there? So, basically, if you think about power, okay, the way power works is your nervous system, your brain is sending that signal down through your nerves to the muscles to maximally contract as rapidly as possible in order to exert as much force as we possibly can. Strength is the foundation of that, is the ability to produce the force. So the stronger you get, the more muscle mass you have, which means the more muscles your nerves can recruit to maximally contract, which means the more weight you can lift. The more weight you can lift more rapidly, the faster you can move it because you have more muscle recruitment. So you have to get stronger in order to be more athletic. Doing med ball crap, doing ladders, doing like band stuff, cable stuff, you're not getting stronger. You need to get a barbell and get stronger to create more muscle mass, to have more muscle mass to be able to recruit from to elicit more power. So you can be more explosive. You can also absorb force better and redistribute that force better, which means you're less likely to get hurt in your sport as well. This all comes back to being strong enough for the demands of the sport. I can't stress this enough. Now, what I'm getting at with the weightlifting part there are famous examples of weightlifters who hit 300 kilo back squat, right? And that's it. They stop there. They'll hit 300 forever. And they don't really train to go heavier because you don't need to. You have plenty of strength reserve now because you're probably not clean and jerking more than 250, 260, like 270 maybe, but like you're not going to be clean and jerking 300 kilos. So you don't need to push the 300 kilo squat because your body, your legs, your back, your core, your upper back, like your lower back, everything is strong enough now to be able to meet the demands of whatever you're snatching and whatever you're clean and jerking. So why increase that load on your body when the strength is already there to produce the force? Does that make sense? So what I'm getting at is with sport, there are some coaches that, they don't see the weight room as, how do I say this, as important as the sport, which sure, if you're playing football, you're there to play football. You're not there to lift weights. However, you're going to be a better football player if you're strong and more powerful, because that's going to make you faster. That's going to make you more agile. Again, with concurrent training. So I'm not saying if your squat goes up, your 40-yard dash time's going up. No, I'm saying if your squat goes up, you have more muscle mass to recruit, so you can be more powerful in your acceleration, or in your start and your acceleration. So that way you're producing more force through the ground, you're producing more power, and you're displacing your body further than you were before. So getting stronger in that case indirectly led to you getting faster while training getting faster in its respective phase. All right, so moving on. There's going to be a lot of tangents here, and I don't have a lot of time to do this. So, as mentioned in the previous section, strength is the foundation for athleticism to allow power to be built upon. I just went over that. So it looks like this entire section is basically what I just went over. So I'm just going to quickly breeze through this. And if there's anything else I need to add, I will. So strength allows for a reserve of force-producing capability as well as provides the structure for the muscles, ligaments, and tendons to support the loads they could be placed under during a sporting event. This provides a higher resilience to injury when loaded and periodized correctly to not overtrain. Strength should taper out, though, as it's only a foundational feature that should rise in proportion to power and size. This is not to say that strength isn't important, however, or this is not to say that strength isn't important. However, it should not be the focus of an athletic program, but rather a phase. Enough strength needs to be developed to be able to produce the forces required at the stage of the athlete's career, meaning a high school senior shouldn't have a 500-pound squat, but can only starfish clean 185 pounds. This is a dramatic, but still common example of a disproportion of strength and power, with the athlete having plenty of leg strength to drive a 185-pound barbell, however, may not know or be able to express the power in that manner. This example, however, shows the problem with a focus on strength without power being a depreciation of athletic ability through force production and absorption. This strong athlete may not be the fastest or most agile athlete either, which is important for every sport and position, even linemen. So basically what I'm saying at the end there, the beginning is everything I already said. At the end, I'm saying a lot of programs, like high school programs specifically, right? You get that football coach who he grew up on squat, bench, deadlift, and that's all he needs. Maybe he grew up on bigger, faster, stronger, so we're doing squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, whatever. If your program focuses exclusively on strength, now hear what I'm saying. I just went on a rant about this, but I'm saying strength needs to be a phase in order to be able to elicit more power out of. So if you are only getting strong, you're developing type 1 fibers only, and then your type 2 fibers are getting overdeveloped or developed over. Let me say it that way. And yes, we do know that athletes can have a proportion genetically of different types, but you can also train different types. We see that in the research. So if you train to that squat and you're like, oh, their squat's so high, like let's get out there and do whatever, but they're barely cleaning 185, you haven't trained the body to be able to recruit that new muscle fiber. All that new muscle you just built, the body still needs to learn how to recruit that maximally, right? So that's where I'm saying strength is a phase. And once you build that strength threshold, then you switch to a power phase. So you're able to elicit that new power or elicit power through that new strength. I hope that makes sense. This is a very scientific episode. Sorry. But I hope it's a beneficial episode. Okay. So basically, all I said in that section was you need to periodize this correctly, which shouldn't be a surprise if you're a strength coach. All right, so speed. Speed is defined as the skills and abilities needed to achieve high movement velocities. Pretty common sense there. Speed requires a high amount of force to be pushed into the ground to elicit a force back. This is Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. One significant component of speed is the rate of force development, defined as the development of maximal force in minimal time, typically used as an index of explosive strength. Clean and snatch is a big rate of force development movement as well. Rate of force development is important as it is the ability to rapidly produce force, power, as opposed to maximal force production, strength. So this requirement comes out of the need of sports not allowing time for maximal force development. So the athlete who can produce the most force in a shorter time will be more athletic in a given situation due to the stretch shortening characteristics of the body. So what I'm saying there is the athlete that is able to more rapidly recruit their muscle fibers, generate more power, basically, will be the more athletic athlete. If it takes you, a 40-yard dash, if it takes you 2 seconds, 3 seconds to get to top speed, I mean, you're already running a slow 40. But if it takes you half a second to get to a top speed, you're going to run a faster 40, right? So what I'm saying is basically on a court, on a field, stuff like that, sport doesn't move slow enough typically to allow you to develop your power, and like to generate your power. So the athletes that learn how to generate their power quicker are the more athletic ones on the court or field. That's what I'm saying with speed. Okay. So agility is defined as the skills and abilities needed to change direction, velocity, or mode in response to a stimulus. So by mode, I mean running forwards, switching to backpedaling kind of stuff. By definition, someone who possesses higher levels of agility is better able to absorb and rapidly redistribute the force placed on them, i.e., a running back making a cut at higher velocities. And training agility should model this definition. Again, the more powerful athlete will be the more agile, since the body is being developed to continually produce and absorb a stimulus. This is also why it's important for athletes to catch cleans. This is also why it's important for athletes to catch cleans. Okay? Training the ability of the body to produce and rapidly absorb a high load. Never catching a clean, yes, there is a reason to only do pulls, robs the athlete of the training of rapidly changing their body position to receive a load after a forceful projection of power. Athletes need to catch their cleans. Okay, just doing pulls to put power into the ground is robbing the athlete of half of the movement, of half of the development you can get. There is no problem, and this is what I got back into with the science episode. There is no issue with increasing the load to the body or whatever. Like if we want to talk football, where football wants to reduce as much contact on the body as possible because we're doing a hard pivot from full contact to no contact now. Well, if you only get one practice a week of contact and then the game, the other way you build the body's ability to absorb that force is by catching your cleans, especially catching heavier cleans at a maximal, high submaximal rate, because you are teaching the body how to rapidly put force into the ground, rapidly extend, distributing that power through, and then switching the trajectory of their body, displacing their body in order to come underneath the bar with enough time to rebrace and absorb that load, absorb it down to the squat, and then drive it right back up against that weight. If you're not catching cleans ever, you are hurting your athletes. All right, I'm not going to go too much because I don't have a lot more time to finish this. So a common type of agility is change of direction, which is defined as the skills and abilities needed to explosively change movement, direction, velocity, or modes, which we already said. Within that very definition is explosively, which is a hallmark result of focusing on power rather than strength with athletes. So, as mentioned at the beginning, strength is absolutely necessary to provide a foundation for power to be built and to increase injury resilience. Power, however, should be the main focus of athletic development as outlined in this post. Plyometric and Olympic weightlifting style movements have the highest carryover. All of my sources are cited there. As alluded to in the previous section, this can be achieved through various modes. The athlete does not have to snatch and clean and jerk to see the benefits of movements. Rather, research seems to point to the intent of these movements, requiring the lifter to produce maximal force to get the barbell high enough to drop under and receive it with no intent to slow the movement down. Simply loading up heavy pulls with the intent of moving them fast seems to elicit a similar response to performing a full lift from a force production standpoint. So if you are only trying to produce force, then yes, doing clean pull, snatch pulls will work. However, if you are in a contact sport, basketball is a contact sport. Baseball can be a contact sport. All sports can be a contact sport. So again, if your goal is only to increase force production, which maybe that's a phase in your program, sure, then pulls are fine. But at some point in your cycle, you should be catching cleans. You should be catching full snatches. You should be doing the Olympic lifts. Okay. So finally, the idea of intent brings us to the last section of this topic: velocity-based training. The idea came about to the previous use of percentages of maxes being an inaccurate way to train athletes with fluctuations in ability depending on where they are in their cycle or season. Basically, a 100% maximal effort lift is going to be much lower in season than off season, right? So they have more stress on them in season. Their bodies are more beat up, so they may not be able to recreate a 100% max effort lift, which we're going to see about that. So VBT uses a submaximal load with an external feedback device and is lifted with the intent of moving it as fast as possible. This is done with cleans, bench press, squats, deadlifts, and sometimes jumps, among really any exercise. VBT focuses on the intent of moving the barbell quickly and efficiently, improving power through rate of force development training, assuming the carryover is trained as well. Major drawback to VBT is the cost of entry, with units pushing 1,000 plus that schools, gyms, or programs cannot really afford to buy in quantity. Workaround for this is a stopwatch. However, this is relying on the eye of the coach and communication of expectations between the coach and athlete, and does not provide an as accurate of a readout as measuring devices. So basically, yes, you can do VBT in order to train rate of force development. Do you know what else trains rate of force development? The snatch and the clean and jerk. Do we see where I'm going with this? The Olympic lifts are athleticism. That's how you develop athleticism. So to conclude this thought, when assessing the basis of athletic development, power training is significantly more important than the other areas, since it more closely resembles and translates into athletic. Strength lays the foundation for power to be produced, as well as improving tissue quality to reduce the chance of injury, but should not be the focus of athletic development. Speed and agility both heavily rely on power to be efficient, with speed requiring a high rate of force development and agility requiring a rapid absorption and distribution of forces the body is encountering. When developing athletes, it is our responsibility as strength and conditioning coaches to ensure our athletes are best prepared for their sports or competitions, and biases should be put aside when doing this. As always, these are just my thoughts with research being done and cited, and I'm happy to discuss these points in the comments. So that is the entirety of the blog. I have 4 minutes to conclude my thoughts here before this system cuts me off. If you are a strength coach, I'm going to talk real now. I'm just going to talk bluntly. If you're a strength coach and you don't use the Olympic list because you don't know how to teach them, or they're too dangerous, or you didn't do them when you were in school, so why are we doing them now? Whatever crap you have, that's bad coaching. That is terrible coaching. I am not a CrossFit coach. I disagree with CrossFit heavily. I don't believe in CrossFit. I think CrossFit is a terrible modality of exercise. I can still teach somebody how to do a wall ball, a thruster, whatever movement, because I am a strength and conditioning coach, which means I know human movement. I know human anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, biochemistry. Like, I know the human body and how to move the body. So that's my job as a strength coach. The clean and the snatch and the jerk, the clean and jerk and the snatch are fundamental barbell movements we have been doing for decades. If you are a strength coach and you don't know how to teach fundamental barbell movements, then you need to go learn. Go get your USAW level 1. Go learn from a barbell clinic. Go on YouTube and watch Attitude Nation videos, Catalyst Athletic videos, hook grip videos. Go watch Weightlifting House videos, Iron Mind videos. Go learn how to at least somewhat coach the clean and jerk and the snatch somewhat safely. I'm not saying become an Olympic lifter. I'm not saying become an Olympic weightlifting coach. I'm just saying learn the barbell movements that you're expected to teach and supposed to teach anyway. And that way now you can safely implement them with your athletes, and you can make your athletes better. And yes, this can be done at scale. Sean Waxman on Instagram. If you go to Sean Waxman, he works at a high school now, and he has a ton of posts on how he's teaching the Olympic lifts in eight steps or 8 minutes or whatever it is. I think it's 8 steps, and he's teaching it to an entire high school group in the weight room. Like, it can be done if you're a good coach and you know weight room management and you know how to teach the movements, and you teach them in a sequence, and you teach them, whether you're going bottom up or top down approach. Like, learn what works for you and teach it. But you need to be developing power with your athletes. If you're not doing that, you're doing your athletes a disservice. Anyway, I'm done rambling for now. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on for my weekly podcast and my daily training videos. As well as I did say I was going to start doing technique videos. And you know what? After this post, I'm going to start doing technique videos for those coaches that may not know how to teach the movements. But again, if you like my headband, it's Vertical Athletics Headbands. Use code Coach Mike for 15% off your order. And I'll also have the link in the description below. And as always, I know this is a contentious episode, but please leave your comments in the bottom. Let's have a discussion in the comment section. Let's keep it cordial. Let's keep it respectful, but let's hash it out in the comment section. I'm curious to know your thoughts and see where everybody else stands on this. So again, if you got value, make sure you like and subscribe. Share this with anybody that you feel will get benefit from it. I apologize for it being a very physics and science heavy episode, but hey, that's strength and conditioning. We're exercise scientists, so that is in our field. So Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.